we have Tim Ellis. He's an established emergency services professional with over 2 decades of experience in dispatch operations and fire service leadership in Onondaga County, located in central New York. And he's a dedicated 911 professional in the Onondaga County Department of Emergency Communications, where he currently serves as a Public Safety Department of Emergency Communications, where he currently serves or Shift Supervisor, Public Safety Shift Supervisor. In his role, Tim leads training initiatives, manages emergency response operations, and oversees the development of dispatch personnel. So, Tim, I will hand it over to you. Thank you for coming again, and you have the floor.
All right, awesome. Thank you, Alex. I appreciate you having me on tonight. This is a new experience for me. I've never done an education thing through Zoom where I'm the presenter. I've always just attended Zoom meetings. So thank you, and to your club here. I'll just go on a little bit of background. I got into emergency services a long, long time ago. I was 14 years old, grew up in a little hamlet where we had a church, a little like convenience store, and a fire station. And not much to do in that area. So at a young age of 14, me and all my buddies decided to walk into the firehouse to see if we could wash fire trucks. And now here we are almost 40 years later. I'm still volunteering with the fire departments, and I landed a career working in emergency dispatch, which has been a journey. I'll leave it at that. I'm going to go a lot into that. It's been quite a journey with a lot of different experiences that I'll share with you guys tonight as we go through. And it really has surrounded me. It put me into an environment that I originally wasn't sure if it was going to work, and now it's all I really know. So it's been pretty awesome. So again, we're in Onondaga County, which we're located right in Onondaga, right in the center of New York State. Our current PSAP, that stands for Public Safety Answering Point. We're the third largest answering point in New York State outside of New York City. We have a total of 38 operating positions. 12 of them are call-taking positions. So call-taking positions are where the call comes in. When somebody dials 911, they're the people that are taking the call, and they process all the information. We'll get into that here in a minute. And then it gets shifted off to different dispatchers where they kind of help manage the emergency response through resource allocation. Who are we sending? Is it calling for multiple agencies to respond? Or do we need police, fire, ambulance, or maybe all three? Are there extra resources we need? The new thing, I heard you talking a little bit about mental health earlier. The new thing we're really getting involved in is in our local community is mental health resources and dispatching them to people that are in need. So things like mobile crisis units. Instead of sending a police officer, we can actually send social workers or people who are trained in that, clinicians and that kind of thing, to somebody who may be in crisis. So that is where we're currently learning a lot, and we're kind of shifting, I'll just say, in the response to a person in crisis, which is, under some sort of mental health crisis. Could be anything from just having a break, or it could be a history of mental health. So everybody's learning as we grow with that. It's kind of neat to be part of that right now. So again, we're located right here in the middle of New York State. Our county is 778 square miles. We have a population of just under 500,000. And we have the city of Syracuse, 15 towns and 15 villages within our county. Syracuse University, and we have a few other colleges, Lemoyne, Onondaga Community College, and let's see, New York State, SUNY as well. So we have a lot of college resources in our area, and we're kind of like the central area for hospitals. We have 5 major hospitals in our area: trauma centers, stroke centers, cardiac centers. So a lot of patients come through from other areas into our county, and where that becomes something that we get involved in is we end up helping with those resources. So say an ambulance is coming in from 2 counties away and they need to speak to a doctor, we actually create that patch for them where they can actually communicate what they're bringing in, what the patient's status is, any, sort of direction they may need from the doctor working at the hospital at the ER. That we help with all that communication patching. So we're really involved in a lot of different areas. We dispatch 17 police agencies, 56 fire departments, most of them being volunteer. We have several that are paid, but most of the 56 fire departments are volunteer. We have 11 ambulance services that we dispatch for. We work closely with emergency management, the fire investigation units, and kind of anything that's really going on in the county. DPWs, we need notifications made for state DOT. We get involved in that as well. Medical examiners, all kind of funnels through the 911 center. So built within the center, we have all sorts of different positions. We have the call taker position. That is where the call comes in. Then we have the police dispatcher position. They are basically looking at all the calls that come to their terminal. They then have to prioritize which call takes priority over the next. So things like if if there's a weapon involved, or if there's a situation where maybe the situation's very volatile, those will take priority over maybe like a larceny invest, right? Fire dispatchers, they are also same thing. A lot of calls will come into the fire dispatcher. They prioritize. And, this morning we dispatched a fire where we had somebody trapped and we were right in the middle of all of that communication. So we basically, the picture you're looking at there is what a console looks like. There's a lot of different computer terminals. The big screen right in the front is going to show us the location. It's going to give us all the notes, what's going on from the call taker. So when the call taker takes that call, they're going to gather information and get sent up to the dispatcher. The screen on the bottom all the way to the left is basically your available resources. So that is just a large screen of how many ambulances, fire trucks are out there in the county that are available or actually assigned to calls. And then the screen up top, one is a phone. So the phone is up to the left. And then the one to the right is basically the radio. So those are all the different radio channels. It's hard to see, but there's a bunch of different radio channels on there that we have access to where we're actually either communicating on or patching other resources together. So maybe we have an ambulance from one county needs to talk to an ambulance from another county. We can patch them in together. And then we always have at the very top of your screen throughout the center, we have TVs that are basically hooked up to local news channels, where we're always monitoring situations that are going on outside, like sporting events, Super Bowls. We always like to keep an eye on that kind of stuff. But on a more serious note, we keep our traffic cams up there. We're always looking we have access to all the traffic cameras in our area. So if there's a major accident up on the highway, we can get a kind of like a bird's eye view pretty quickly. It's a quick speed dial button to Department of Transportation in our local area, and they actually will put it up on our screen so we can see that and monitor that. There's a lot of different tools that we're using, a lot of different programs that we're using, and I'll get into that here in a little bit. We have emergency medical dispatchers. So every call taker or every person that's actually in our agency is trained on a protocol. And the protocol basically allows us to work through medical calls as they come in and triage patients and give pre-arrival instructions. So if somebody is unconscious and not breathing and the person calling really doesn't know what to do, we have the training to be able to start CPR instructions and try to get that person engaged in doing compressions until an ambulance arrives. And that has been pretty amazing. We've seen quite an increase in survival rates with early onset of CPR and the early onset of an AED. We have a data operator. Data operators work closely with the police, and they are running checks on people that the police come in contact with. So say if you get pulled over and the officer asks for your license and registration, they generally will take that back to their car and call up the data operator and just make sure that you're not wanted or have outstanding, situations that you need to address. And really, that's all they're doing. There's more of a just to check the people that they come in contact with. Data operators will also call for tow trucks if they have motor vehicle accidents where they need tow trucks for cars. The data operator handles all that. Then we have technical assistants, TAs, that are assigned to each dispatch area. They're basically the extra set of hands to, if we get a large scale event, maybe it's a mass casualty incident or maybe it's a major fire, you need extra hands to do some of the extra notifications and extra work. So that TA becomes that person. And then on the floor, you have the supervisor of dispatch operations. They're kind of scattered throughout the floor. So there's different pods. If you can picture a big floor, and there's a little pod in one corner, and in another corner, there's another pod, and another corner, there's another pod. And that's how the room is kind of separated. So you have police in one corner, you have fire on the other side of the room, and then you have all your call takers on the other side of the room. And then you have supervisors of dispatch operations within those pods. And then you have the public safety shift supervisors, which is the role that I'm currently in, who kind of oversee the entire operation as the day goes on. So I'm working on the B watch shift, which is mostly days, and I oversee all of those different operations, working through our supervisor of dispatch operations. That's kind of how the chain goes. And then I report to a deputy commissioner who reports to the commissioner of the 911 center. So in a nutshell, that's kind of the way I'll just say the organizational chart works with the comm center. And then looking beyond the operations floor, we have different divisions built within our center. We have the operations division, which is the main operation. We have a training division. Training division handles everything from new employees coming in the building to keeping current employees up on CDEs or continuing education credits for different things. We have to recertify in CPR. We have to recertify in emergency medical dispatch. We have to recertify in training officers. So there's a lot of training that has to continue and go on. So we have a whole division assigned to that. We have a technical support division. They make sure that everything's working. They make sure our radios are working, our phones are working, our everything right down to the headsets we're wearing. They take care of all the technical support. And then we have a mapping division or a GIS division who's constantly updating our maps. Our maps are always changing, as you can imagine. Developments are being built, roads are being built. Buildings that were existing are now renamed, or there's new companies or organizations that have moved in. So they're always trying to keep up with those changes. So that's what our mapping division does. And then we have a quality assurance division. The quality assurance division listens to calls as they come in. Everything's recorded. We have a huge, oh my God, I'm drawing a blank here, basically a huge server that keeps all the recordings of every phone in our building, every radio transmission, everything is recorded and held for 90 days. So our quality assurance division goes through each employee and performs quality assurance checks. And that's what they do all day long, every day. They also get involved in if there's a major incident and we need a quick review, or maybe there's a criminal investigation and the police need evidence, meaning the phone calls and the radio transmission. They'll take that into evidence. They will also help with that type of work. We have a professional standards division that basically keeps us in check with our policies and procedures and accreditations. We're CALIA accredited, and so their whole goal and their whole mission is to constantly update and review policy and procedures. Things that need to be changed get changed. Things that we no longer need get taken away, and new things like all the mental health stuff we're dealing with now. There's a lot of new changes coming, so they're creating the standards that will fall into place when we put things into motion. We have an administrative support group who are basically they assist the commissioners and the training divisions and the technical divisions with any sort of, administrative support they may need, whether it's writing emails, memos, just getting them supplies or anything they actually would need to do their operation. And then we have a newly wellness division, which we just formed this past year to basically focus in on the mental health stress of the job. Our call takers are, when they pick up a phone, they're dropped into some of the worst scenarios you can imagine. And then when they hang up the phone's ringing again and they're on to the next call. So we really recognized over the recent years that we were missing something there, and we were having people that were struggling with processing some of the traumas that they were involved in or listened to. I'll give you an example. Just this morning, the fire we had locally, one of our call takers was on the phone with a victim inside the building and heard her go unconscious. They removed her from the building and she was transported to the hospital. And that's the last we know of it. So there's some stress that goes with that too. You don't know what the outcome is. So the wellness division has been, again, it's new. We're adding to it. There's a lot going on with it. And I think it's going to be it's going to have a huge impact on, I think, the overall wellness of our people when they're working. Very happy that we're heading in that direction. I've been helping out with that as much as I can. So those are the different divisions. To get hired and work in a 911 center, the hiring process starts with an application, a civil service exam. You get put on a list, and then you get canvassed off that list, and then you go through a pre-screening process, which is an interview. You come in for a critical is basically a typing test, listening test. So you listen to recordings and you have to follow along with recordings and type. And then we also have you do a floor observation. So you actually come into the center and you actually see what it looks like, sounds like, and you actually spend about 4 to 6 hours just on the floor observing. And then there is the job offer. And then once you accept the job offer, you start the training process, which is a 7-week entry course. And in that entry course, we give you as much information as possible to get you to the point where you'll be able to go out onto the floor with a training officer and then work another 12 weeks with somebody basically attached to you, kind of like holding your hand and helping you through every single call that you take. They learn call taking procedures. They become certified as emergency medical dispatchers. And again, they go on to the 12 weeks of on-job training. Taking a 911 call. So what is the process like? A lot of people ask me, what's it like? Where does it start? The process is very simple. We start with what is the location of the emergency. One of the biggest, I'll say, misconceptions is that we know where you are all the time. We don't, especially now that everybody's mobile and they have their phones. We still need you to tell us exactly where you are. So we always ask, what is the location of the emergency? And we need to verify that location. Some people don't know where they are, and we have to work with them through that. And what we have a lot of tools that will help us with that. So we have a lot of data coming in from your phone. If your GPS is on your phone, it's sending data to us, basically telling us, it'll give us a confidence factor about the location that it thinks that you are. So that helps us with verifying the location. We always like to get a caller's name. A couple of reasons for that. We like to know who we're talking to. It's very important that we make that we quickly make a connection with the caller, because the quicker we can make that connection, the better the whole call and the whole process is going to handle. So the best way to do that is find out the person's name. And then if we need to call them back, we have their name. The callback number is important in case we get disconnected. We can call them back, or if we need to get further information, we can call them back. And then we're going to go into what are the details of the emergency. And we're looking for pertinent information. There's a man with a knife who is, trying to stab somebody. Boom. That's enough information for us to get resources going. Or there's a building on fire or whatever it is. And then from there, we can actually send the call to dispatch and keep that caller on the phone and get more information. And that information gets relayed instantly. So as the caller tells the call taker what's going on, We're entering that into the CAD notes. The dispatchers have it, and they're updating the responders. We select the appropriate response. Is it police, fire, or EMS? Send the call to dispatch. And then when it comes to the medical things, we start early interventions. And a lot of times that could be just simply controlling the bleeding, right? If we don't control bleeding, the person can bleed out, and that can be really bad. Same thing, CPR. We are seeing more and more recovery rates because we're getting people to engage, not even like full blown CPR where you're giving compressions and breaths, but really just doing compressions until responders get there. So if a person is unconscious and breathing can't be verified by a second party caller, basically the person who is with that patient, we're immediately going to engage them into CPR and hope for the best. So what are the barriers? Caller emotional distress. They are usually calling us not to order a pizza. They're calling to actually, report something that's either happening to them or something that's happening around them or near them, or they're witnessing it. So most attached to it is going to be high. If somebody's calling in a person who is unconscious on a bench and they have no clue who that person is, they're probably going to be calmer than if they call in an unconscious person in their living room that's somebody that they know. So there's the emotional distress. Communication challenges. We have a lot of communication challenges with, what's our caller with that emotional distress is one. Are there language barriers? Are we talking to a child? We get a lot of children that call that are, 3, 4 years old trying to report an emergency. So we have to work around those communication challenges and be able to communicate with them. Noise and distractions in the background. Some callers will be resistance to assistance. They will just get them here, just get the police here, get the fire department here. They'll resist us talking to them, not realizing that we're just trying to help them and trying to give them some sort of instruction to help the situation until responders arrive. It could be safety instructions. It could be simple, don't go near something. We've had calls where, power lines were down on motor vehicles and the caller is walking towards it, and we have to instruct them, don't go near that, and get everybody else away. So we're always just trying to, when we're gathering information, we're saying it along, our biggest goal is to keep everybody safe, including the bystander, and pass along pertinent information. Lack of information can become a barrier. Time pressure can become a barrier. And then the call taker, emotional fatigue. When they're done with that high stress call, they're drained. And the next thing you know, the phone's ringing again. So that becomes a barrier if you have a long day where all the calls seem to be falling on you, all the bad calls, which can happen.
Hey,
Emergency medical.
Sam, if I
Yes.
can, I just want to go back to where you said if the caller has GPS on. Now, is that a easier way for you guys to figure out where they're located? If so, you think it would be best practice to turn your GPS on, call 911 so that they can easily locate you?
Yes. So if your GPS is on and you dial 911, that is the best way. So you have to turn it on your phone. I know some people don't really like that. But if you're looking for help, if you have that on, it's going to work to your advantage. It's going to help us pinpoint where you are. We use a system called Rapid SOS, and Rapid SOS allows us to actually look at for 10 minutes. If your phone dials 911, say you couldn't even say anything, right? Say you were whatever, you couldn't speak, but you dialed 911 for 10 minutes. If your GPS is on, it will track your phone. So maybe you were abducted and you're in a car and you had to dial 911. We can actually follow that phone as long as that phone line called 911 for 10 minutes.
That's
Um,
great to know. I don't think many people know this. And if you're in a dangerous situation with a shooter or something and you don't want to speak, that's a great thing to think about. Turn your GPS on and then call 911.
Absolutely. It's huge. And then to expand on that, we also have the technology where if you can't talk, you can always text us as well. But same thing, if you turn your GPS on before you text us, even though you're texting us, we will still get a pin on a map of where this phone is, and it gives us an accuracy, right? So we're going to look at that. We're going to see the data, and we're going to say, okay, it's a 95% accuracy that they're within 200 meters of this location. And so we can send resources there and try to find whoever needs the help.
That's great. And with call taker fatigue, say someone has a really rough call, like, one of those. Do you guys have some kind of buddy system where someone else steps in their place, so they can just have a moment to walk away?
So that's a great question. 4 years, it was suck it up, on to the next call. We have grown and have recognized that that just isn't healthy. It's not healthy for the call taker. So we allow timeouts, right? We're running at minimum staffing. So we do need that person in the seat taking 911 calls. But everybody on the floor is doing a great job where if you hear somebody in the corner maybe giving compression instructions, you know they're dealing with a high stress call because they're giving compression instructions. They're dealing with somebody who's not conscious and not breathing. Everybody immediately, if they're not on a call, will start looking in the system. Oh, what call are they on? And next to know, they'll look and they'll go, oh, it's a 3-year-old. Wow. Right. And then we've all been in that seat. We've all been on that phone call before, and we know how stressful that is. So as soon as that call is done, it's usually kind of like people are going over to them. Hey, you did a great job. Supervisors will hear that and walk up to them and say, hey, go ahead, go outside, take a walk. Recently in our center, we took the parking lot and we created a walking path all the way around the perimeter of the parking lot. And that gets used more and more after those high emotional calls.
Yeah.
Just 5-10 minutes, go outside, get some air, get away from all the noise on the operation floor, walk around the parking lot, breathe, and then come back in and get back to it. And that seems to do the trick. Now, if it's a really, 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 really bad call, we may need to go a little further beyond that. Maybe get peer support involved, or maybe even you might be done for the day. We have to acknowledge that it may take you out of service for the rest of the day, and that's okay. And we've slowly have made the turn to understand that we have to be able to process some of those things,
Mhm.
because if we don't, we're just compounding it, and then we have issues later on, right? So,
That's great. So you're sort of a family unit in a way. Right? Having
1,000%.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when it comes to language barriers, what strategies do you use for language barriers on calls?
So language barriers there's basically a system that we use, where if we pick up the phone and we can't understand the person on the other end because of a language barrier, we have a translation service. So we can actually, real quick, it's a speed dial button. We bring them on and we say, hey, it's Onondaga. What's nice is we can still send the call to dispatch. Is basically a call for police, nature's unknown, or call for an ambulance, nature's unknown, or call for all, nature's unknown, right? At least get things started. And the first line of notes is dealing with a language barrier and working with an interpreter. When we get the interpreter on, it becomes a relay service. So we tell the interpreter the question to ask, they ask the question, they get the answer, the interpreter then gives us the answer. So it takes a little more time to process that call, but that's how we get through those language barriers.
That's great. Thank you, Tim.
You bet. All right. So moving on, emergency medical dispatch. To go into that a little further, the first thing we do on an EMD call, which is a medical type call, is we do what's called call triage. We gather essential information from the caller to determine the urgency and the type of medical assistance that is required. And this could be anything from a nosebleed to a broken finger to somebody who's burned really bad, full arrest, or traumatic injury, right? It's all over the place. So we have to do a little triage in the beginning, and then from there we go into what's called pre-arrival instructions. And the pre-arrival instructions allow us to give the caller some instructions on how to help the patient before emergency responders arrive. This could include, again, the CPR, maybe delivering a baby, anything like that. Or it could even mean not engaging at all. We had a situation where we had a power truck, and the guy in the bucket was electrocuted. He was up near the wires, and his buddy went to help him and touched the truck, and then he was electrocuted, and then another guy was running up, and we had to stop it. We had to basically intervene there and say everybody needs to just back away. There's nothing we can do. So pre-arrival instructions could be anything from scene safety, or it could be some sort of intervention that may help save that victim's life or that patient's life. And then, of course, there's resource allocation that comes with it. How many ambulances are needed? What type of ambulances are needed? Do you need ALS for advanced life support or BLS for basic life support? How many paramedics do we need at the scene? Do we need rescue? So there's a lot of resource allocation that goes with it. And then just coordination with all of the emergency responders. So emergency medical dispatch is a huge part of our job. And there's a lot of training that goes into that. So just to give you a little background of Onondaga, some of our statistics, these are from 2023. 2024 statistics should be out very soon. We dispatch, these are all the different agencies that we dispatch for, but to give you just a quick breakdown, we received a total of 522,422 incoming emergency calls. So those are the 911 calls. They dialed the 911 number. Then we answered another 91,306 calls, which were answered from what's called the 10-digit line. So the 10-digit lines are basically lines that go into the police stations years ago. And then we opened our enhanced 911 center, and we kind of just absorbed all those 7-digit lines or 10-digit lines. So I'll just say, like in our area, there's the Village of North Syracuse Police Department. They still have their 10-digit line. So if somebody dials it, it doesn't go to them. It still comes to the 911 center. So we answer 911 plus all those other lines. They're legacy lines. So you can kind of see we're a little busy there. The language barriers, this is what we looked at. This was 2023. So we took 818 Spanish, Arabic, 122, Swahili, 38, Nepali, 28, and Mandarin. And it kind of goes down through, and it kind of shows you the percentage of those language lines that we used, or the language translations that we used. And it's just kind of a little graphic there. So that's how we address it. We have interpreters for over 140 different languages. And we also work with our local police departments they also have police officers that can translate as well. So if we know, let's just say we take a call and it's Spanish speaking, right? And we load it up and we let the officers know. The police officers, like Syracuse Police, has a whole resource list of Spanish speaking officers. So we can then see if one of them are working and make sure that they respond to the call that we know has Spanish speaking people there. So it's not just taking the call. We try to accommodate all the way through to make sure the appropriate resources respond to that call to help with that language barrier. Hearing impaired, we have all sorts of different ways we can deal with hearing impaired. We have text to 911. Again, that allows individuals to send a text. We have TTY, which has been there for a long time. TTY was kind of before the text to 911. And they're basically devices allowing hearing impaired users to communicate with emergency services by typing messages. There's video relay services. That's for people who use sign language to communicate. They basically dial into the video relay service. The video relay service calls us and tells us what's going on, and they're communicating through sign language. And then mobile apps. A lot of our mobile apps are now being designed and being used for emergency situations, allowing users to alert emergency services right through the actual mobile app. Citizens app, I don't know if you've ever heard of that. That's a new one. It's called Citizens app. You can dial 911 right through it. So a lot of new technology. There we go. Segue right into that. New technology. So mapping, location-based services, enhanced GPS technology for more accurate tracking of callers. That seems to be coming at us at about 100 miles an hour. We're getting a lot of new technology coming into the building, helping with mapping and location-based services. Next generation 911 is a major 911 infrastructure upgrade that's being funded and supported. And it's basically to handle various data types such as text, images, videos, providing dispatchers with more information. What I do love about this is they're doing it they're adding this infrastructure because it is important. It's important to be able to gather evidence, but we've had a seat at the table, meaning the 911 world has had a seat at the table, because the last thing we want our call takers to do is having somebody send a video or an image that is just going to, stick with that call taker. So what's nice is they're looking at things like, in order for anyone to send anything, the call taker will have to actually control that whole process, right? So some of the talks are like, if you were a citizen calling in and say you had a picture of a suspect, okay, I now send you a link. I control that link. You download the whatever picture to it. It comes back to me. It's a blurred image, and it doesn't come clear unless I make it come clear. So if the police want to look at it, they can. We gather that. But if we need to see it, we can open it. You have control of it. So the next generation stuff is kind of big. There's a lot of talk going on with what that's going to bring us, as well as AI. AI, I think, is going to help us with analyzing data, assisting in prioritizing responses. There's a lot of AI technology coming at us as well. And then mobile apps. Again, we're already seeing a lot of mobile apps that can dial directly to 911 and provide us data. So a lot going on with new technology. Super excited about that. I think there's a lot we can learn from there.
Hey Tim, I got another question.
What you got?
On the question slide. Um, do you see any when it comes to new technology, do you think there's going to be a learning curve in learning these new technologies, or do you think there's enough resources out there to kind of guide through? How do you feel about the new technologies?
I think that whenever we get something new that we're using at a 911 level, it seems that there's always good training that comes with it. So I do think there will be it'll be a process, especially for our older dispatchers, maybe people that are 25, 30 years in on the job. They may struggle with some of the new technology coming in, but
Mhm.
I'm hopeful that it will come with the appropriate training and the appropriate resources to make sure that we're able to learn it and use it appropriately.
Great. Um, let's see. How well do you cooperate regionally beyond borders of Onondaga County?
So regionally, our radio system is actually a regional radio system. Without getting really too technical, basically we have what's called the central hub, and we have 6 different counties use our radio system as the central hub. And then it's kind of like this ginormous brain that helps with the communications for 6 different counties. As far as from a response level, each county has its borders. Each town and village have their borders. Each fire district have their borders. Each police department has their borders. And generally in the region, we all work under what's called a mutual aid agreement. So as far as response is concerned, there's a lot of mutual aid agreements that are out there where we can pull from each other's resources to mitigate a situation.
Great. Um, what resources are available to help residents, to help them prepare for emergencies?
Ooh, ready.gov is a good resource. If you go to ready.gov, it's a lot of checklists you can download. Having a good plan, I would say, is huge. And you could break this down into fire, EMS, police. On the fire side of things, you want to make sure you have a plan to get out of your house if it's on fire, exit drills in the home. If you have, maybe you're living in an area where there's high crime, maybe having, being prepared with security cameras, security systems would be something that you would want to do. And then all your local police departments and your fire departments will help you with those plans. You just got to reach out and ask them. Just knowing who's going to respond to you if you do need help, that's important as well. Um, Yeah. So I mean, there's a lot of ways. I know in my community every year the fire department holds what they call a safety day, and you go there and they have everybody there. The police department's there, the fire department's there, the ambulance is there, and you can ask questions, and they're always handing out good information to help you prepare and be prepared.
That's great to know. I don't think a lot of people think about actually going ahead and asking their police departments or asking the main people what to do. And I mean, everyone's more than willing to help and lend those resources. So it's important that people know that it is okay to reach out to your departments.
Absolutely.
And Professor Gibbons, did you have a question?
Yes, Madam President, thank you for acknowledging me. Tim, first of all, I'd like to say what an outstanding presentation and detailed. Just a great job. We have one question out there from one of our attendees asking, what does the response time for calls involving translations look like compared to calls that don't?
It's a great question. So it definitely takes a little longer because we're adding that third element, right? You have the caller, the call taker, and now we have to get the translator on. And with every call is not going to be timed exactly the same, right? Things are different. When somebody's emotional state is really, really high, it's going to be harder to gather information from them because we have to work through that barrier. But if it's somebody who's calm, and if we were comparing apples to apples, it's going to take a little bit longer. When I mean a little bit longer, maybe a minute, because we have to bring that third um, element into it. But once they're in, we basically process the call like we would normally process the call. And what's interesting, you saw that a lot of our callers are Spanish in Onondaga County. You actually learn some of the words and what they're asking for. You know, you kind of can hear that they need an ambulance, and then if we hear that, we can react to it and get those resources started. That's a nice thing about working with computer aided dispatch is at any point you can send that call to dispatch with basically a note that says details to follow, just get them started. I think that it's time to get them going. So it varies. So I don't have a good direct answer on that. It does take a little longer, but not too much.
Thank you for your reply, sir. I do
Yes.
appreciate it. We do appreciate your time, Madam President. I'll turn it back over to you for the conclusion of the meeting.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Well, my last question, if no one else has anything, is what kind of advice would you give to anyone who is considering going into emergency dispatch or even possibly firefighting or any of the public safety fields? Like what's your best, I don't know
Yeah.
how to say,
Yeah.
encouragement?
If you're a person who has the compassion and desire to help others, then you'll fit in well. Um, Take care of yourself, I think would be my biggest advice. Don't be I get called I get told that I'm an empath. And basically that's somebody who basically puts everybody else's needs ahead of theirs and really just wants to hug everybody. And that apparently that's how I am. You got to be careful and take care of yourself or you will get burnt out. It's an amazing, rewarding job sometimes, not all the time. It can be very traumatizing. It can be very hard to deal with at times. But if you take care of yourself and if you take care and do the right things to deal with the traumatic stress that comes along with it, or maybe some of the things that you've seen to process those things. In the past, it was always suck it up, and get on with the next. And I think that caused more damage than good. So my advice to anybody getting involved in any sort of first responder work, police, fire, EMS, military, any of that is understand that it comes with a lot of weight and you have to take care of yourself so you can take care of others. That would be my number one thing piece of advice. But go after it. We need people to take care of others. We need people to be first responders. So if it's something you're interested in, go after it, but take care of yourself.
Yeah, I agree. Um, are there any programs out there to kind of engage interest in these fields?
There's a lot of recruitment efforts. I know we have a whole recruitment team at 911. The volunteer fire departments are always out recruiting. Syracuse Police is always recruiting. I see the sheriff's recruiting. So a lot of people are out recruiting. And I think that, that and engaging with your local high schools, colleges, and letting them know about these jobs and these careers, I think can help as well.
Another thing I want to mention is a lot of different communities, no matter where you live, there is a Citizens Academy, which is where I met you.
Yeah,
Uh, I think those kind of resources are great to utilize. I highly encourage everyone to get involved in their um, community and join these Citizens Academies that they open your eyes to everything. They open doors. You see through the lens of other people that you don't get to see the experiences from, and you learn from them.
I agree.
Let's see. Kensley, did you have something?
Hi, yes. So I live in Monroe, North Carolina, and I applied to be a 911 dispatcher and they didn't hire me because I didn't have experience. How would one go about getting experience to work for dispatch?
It's a good question. I think what type of experience did they indicate what experience you didn't have? Was it
They wanted me to have several years of dispatch experience, but how do you get experience
yeah.
if they won't hire you because you don't have experience?
Yeah, that's a good question. I know in Onondaga, we also ask for experience, but it's not dispatcher experience. It's any sort of experience with um, customer service, data entry. It really has nothing to do with the 911 job is the way ours works. But if they're looking for specific first responder dispatcher experience, you would maybe be able to get that through a local fire department, maybe working there part-time, helping them do fire reporting, or maybe a local police agency doing the same thing, helping them with, their police reports, things like that. So that's a good question. I don't know what type of experience, because I know here in New York, you can you need some sort of experience in data entry, but they're more concerned about, do you have any college? Do you have um, any background in first responders? Because we do pull a lot of. This is the way I got. This is the way I got started. I started as a volunteer firefighter, and then that gave me the experience to apply for the 911 spot. So, getting involved in your fire departments, your police departments, I think would be the best way to get that experience.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Kensley. Do you think for anyone who has any kind of medical uh, education background, do you think they would have a chance?
Yes, definitely. Paramedics, we have in our center, we have paramedics that work in our center. We have EMTs that work in our center. Um, we have um, we have social workers that are in our center right now. So yeah, definitely.
Okay, great.
Yep. We have 988 workers that are working with us as well. So
Yeah,
988's the suicide prevention line.
it's great. Does anyone have any other questions before we let Tim go? Danny, I'm glad you enjoyed it. Thank you, Amber. Looks like we're getting a lot of positive feedback, Tim. Everyone enjoyed your
You guys
presentation.
are awesome. I appreciate you guys.
Well, then I will bring this meeting to an end. It is officially 6:56 p.m. Eastern Time. Um, can I get someone to second that, Professor Gibbons?
Yes, I will second it. And once again, Tim, thank you very much. And hopefully we'll be able to talk you into doing this at least one more time.
Yes, sir. Anytime.
I think they like you, Tim.
Perfect.
Thank you so much, Tim, again. It's really great to have you come on and talk. Everyone really enjoyed it.
All right. You're welcome. Thank you. And appreciate all that you guys are doing. This is a great group you have here. Thanks for
Thank
having me.
you. Appreciate you.